Good day to all. My name is Alejandro Leluar and I work for the US Drive-In Council. At USDBC, one of our tasks is to keep track of the international drive-in market, and that includes, of course, paying close attention to our fellow farmers of the South America in Argentina. I am today with Nicolás Karnoubi, the manager of the Pulses division of OLEGA, one of the main drive-in exporting companies in that country. Nicolás is also the current president of CLERA, the Argentinian Chamber of Pulses, and he was kind enough to join us today to share his thoughts about the 2021 drive-in crop. Nicolás, thank you very much for joining me today and share your thoughts with the US drive-in industry.
Hello, Alejandro. Good afternoon. Well, it's a pleasure being with you. It's a pleasure for me. Thank you.
Great. Nicolás, could you share your thoughts of or a general overview of the Argentinian 2021 drive-in crop?
Yes, sure. I can tell you a little bit about the crop. The 2021 crop was planted as always. Argentina has one crop every year. The crop was planted in the month of February. We start, let's say, at the end of January, planting the black beans and the rest of the beans during February. The crop was planted under excellent conditions. This is very important to remark. It was one of the years. I remember that the conditions of the soil, of humidity, and the general conditions of the weather and of the seed was really good. And the most important thing is the crop was planted on time, and we don't need practically any replant, what we call to plant again because of any issue with the weather. So we started very, very good indeed, the 2021. We went through a month of March with good moisture and with very good conditions with sunny weather, etc. The crop continued development in these ways. It was, let's say, when we stand up at the months of end of March, beginning of April, we thought that Argentina would have one of the biggest crop ever. Let's say we estimate at that moment a bumper crop, and then from the 15th of April, suddenly the weather changed. We have a change in the pattern of the weather. The moisture began to be not so enough for the beans development. Why? Because, well, in the north part of Argentina, even though we went in Argentina, we went at that moment going to an autumn, in the northern part of Argentina was very hot. It is still today quite hot. Last week was hot either. And on the other side, the rain suddenly stopped. So then, well, the beans continue development with the remaining humidity that was in the undersoil, let's say the underwater in the soil. And we only have some few rains, but very little, 8 millimeters, 10 millimeters, and in different areas. It was not a general rain. So I can tell you that practically Argentina, the northern part of Argentina went through a drought starting the mid of April until practically today. We just have very few rains and very dispersed the rains, and the beans development was done principally because of the water that was accumulate before, let's say, the 15th of April. So we start making a lot of changes in our estimations of the crop. What we believe that it was going to be a bumper crop, we changed the estimation to let's say, first of all, to a very good crop. And then we change it to an average crop. If you ask me today how I see, I think that Argentina will have an average crop. Around 1.2 tons per hectare of yield. It can be 800 kilos per hectare in some areas and 1,400 kilos in another areas. That is very important also, Alejandro, because this year we will see, in my opinion, much more variability than what we are used to see in the different areas in the north of Argentina. Right. You can go around a field let's say a big field, and you will see very, very, very important differences in the same field regarding to the yield of the hectare.
Right. You mentioned also in last week's interview at GPC and at the conference that because of the drought, the harvest progress increased, right? Like the harvest moved a couple weeks earlier. Is that right? How do you see harvest progress today?
Yes, yes, it is right, Alejandro, it is true. Probably if we would have had some more rains, or let's say rains at least during the months of May, the cycle of the bean, you know that the cycle of the bean, in general, if you plant, let's say the 15th of February, 20th of February, you start harvesting in July, first quarter of July. That is the typical cycle of the bean plant in Argentina, let's say, principally in white beans, for example, just to take into account. And what happens is that with no moisture and the sunny weather, the plant starting, let's say, to just start asking to be drying and cutting to prepare the harvest. It is like you said, the plants starting to giving up themselves, the plants. So the farmers just tell us that the plants are ready, and this is what produce to the cycle to become shorter. And in my opinion, let's say what I have seen in my experience, in the shorter cycles, it is practically 99% that you will have a lower yield because the plant cannot develop in the way it should have had.
Right. Yeah, it was a complicated. It seemed like everything was going smoothly, and then problems happened. But well, that's farmers are used to that, unfortunately, and with the changing weather all over the world, that's probably going to be the rule in the coming years. Looking at the bright side, you didn't see any frosts, right? This year because of the warmer climate?
No, we are not seeing them. Well, the last weekend, Saturday and Sunday was quite cold, but we don't see any frost. And I know as a positive thing, we are not seeing them in the forecast. But well, we need to be very careful and look at the forecast very, very, very closely because well, with the weather, you never know. Maybe. Right. It's impossible to forecast the weather in, let's say, and to be 100% sure of what is going to happen. But well, it's a positive thing. And the second positive thing is that as it was very dry, we hope that we will have a great quality this year.
I see. Do you think it would be fair to think that since alluvias are planted later and upper north, that it will suffer the most because of the dry conditions of the end of the cycle?
I think that if you look around, how is the division of the different types of beans planted in the northern part of Argentina. The northern part of Argentina is very big because we are talking about of distances maybe of the north, very in the north to not so in the north of 400-500 kilometers away from each other. I believe that every bean will suffer these consequences of the drought. Maybe it depends on the area. I cannot say that the white beans especially will suffer at the most. We are seeing that the black beans, for example, in the black beans, we are 40% in the advance of the harvest. And we are seeing that for the moment, the yields are very good in Tucumán, and they are not going to be so good in the north. So I cannot assure that the white beans will suffer more than any other different type of bean.
I see. It's usually when we follow up the harvest in Argentina, we see like a division between north, center, and south, but it seems like this year it's all more like mixed up, right?
Yes, it is a little bit mixed up. It is true. I think that the area has changed, and the farming policy has changed in Argentina in the last years. We are seeing that every bean is planted in a lot of areas, maybe not the most suitable ones, but it
Right.
is a business, just to say. And we will see that this year will change completely with the high prices of the soy and of the corn. Each year is a different one. This year we also have a lot of mung beans, that it is not a traditional crop in Argentina, and you will see that it is mixed up everything, but the general thing, it has not changed. You plant in a certain date, you harvest in a certain date, and you have a certain area that is defined for each different of production.
Right. Now that you mention corn and soybeans, how do you see dry beans in Argentina competing against soybean, corn, and the other major commodities in the coming years with the increasing prices of soybean and corn, especially?
Well, it is a hard competition, really a hard one. First of all, well, in Argentina, the next crop for the soy and of the corn will be planted, let's say, between October and December, depending on the area of Argentina. That is to first to have into account. The second thing is how it is going to be the price of soy and corn in the 2022 April and May when you harvest them. If you look at now at the boards, well, the prices are, let's say, are less than today's price, but are still very good. I am seeing that the competition will be hard because I am feeling that in other crops, like for example peanuts in the province of Córdoba, and I am seeing that when we start thinking the next crop for the beans, we will have a very difficult competition, especially in the lease of the land. Especially, the lease of the land will be the key factor to produce beans. And as I explained last week in GPC, I think that if beans don't have good prices, they will suffer a lot the decrease in the production for next year.
Right. Because you will still have to pay more for the same piece of land, and you could choose to plant commodities which are more secure.
Obviously, it is much more secure, as you said, because you know what you are going to, you know the price at which you are going to sell. In the beans, it's practically impossible to know that. And the second thing is that it is easier and less risky in general to produce cereals.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of the case everywhere. So
yes, it is. Argentina is part of the world tendency, and the farmers make their calculations, and they have to gain money. If they don't obtain money, they will switch to another crop. It is what we are here in Argentina. We have a lot of experience in that because, well, we have you know that we have duties for export duties for soy and for corn and for a lot of other products also, and we have a lot of policies that change the prices at you can sell the crop. So you have to be very close and to look at it carefully. But it is completely sure that for the next crop we'll have a hard competition to play with the soy and with the corn.
Right. And adding more pressure to the market is the fact that China is practically out of the dry bean exports, right? How do you see that playing in the future? And excuse me, I am asking you for like your crystal ball, but with China out of the market, it seems like the world needs to grow more dry beans, especially blacks. But you also have, on the other hand, the competition from soybean and corn. So it's kind of a complicated situation, right?
Going to China, we have to think that we have to analyze this in two different ways. It is completely true, and we see the fact that China is becoming a net importer of beans, but not only of beans. It is becoming an importer of peas, of peanuts, and of other products that a few years ago it was a big exporter, or let's say an important exporter. I think that this is a fact, it's not a tendency. What it is for me a tendency is that we have to follow the market of China and see if indeed they will become a net importer of these things, or if they will replace the beans and the peas, or in the case of the peanuts that I know very well, for other products. For example, they can replace the pulses for meat, because they are becoming a richer country with people earning more money. They are going to another degree in their economy. So we have to follow this and to see. I think that we will have a lot of chances of making beans business to China. For example, in CLERA, last year we worked a lot, and we finally get it to make an agreement with China to export peas. Now we are the green peas. Now we can export green peas to China, and we are doing the same and working with the Chinese authorities to do the same for chickpeas and for beans. Well, we are in a queue. There is also the Chamber of Rice is asking for that permit also. So, well, we are working on that. But if you ask me, I think that we will have a lot of possibilities to make business. How that business will become sustainable in time, we have to see it. We have to see it. I don't know if China will become as sustainable as it is the European industry. Maybe yes. Or maybe it takes a few years, but there is no doubt that China is a very important country and plays a very important role in this.
It is surprising how fast they can change their production, right? It's like they move in and out of a market, and it's, I don't know. I think that's like a unique capability of China being a communist country. The fact that they can ask their growers or to rapidly change from one crop to another. So that's an important point. It's difficult for the world to adjust when you have such a sudden changes.
It is true. It is true. It is completely true. Well, they change very quickly. There are a lot of people. Also, it is very important in China. The production it is very different from Argentina. In Argentina, we have huge owners of land, and when we speak of a production in Argentina, let's say, for example, of soy and corn, the most little farmers, they produce 150, 200 hectares. The most, let's say the most
smallest.
small, yeah, the smallest ones. And if we have to speak of the biggest ones, well, we can talk of thousands and thousands of hectares. That's why also they can change. They don't control huge amount of land, so it is easy to change the logistics, the machinery, the experience, the seed, and all the things that we need.
Nicolás, now that we are discussing the international market, one thing that it's kind of generating some buzz, as you know, it's the fact of the European Union asking for changes in the maximum residue limits of agrochemicals. Is that also on CLERA's agenda?
Yes, completely it is, and we are working a lot with the farmers and with the farm entities to try to explain them and let's say the word is not convince them, to explaining them very well that we will need to fulfill the EU regulations to export to that market. And it is not only a EU regulation, it is now an EU regulation, but it will be a worldwide regulation in the near future. So we are working very close in all our traceability, all the producers, the processors and the exporters as a chain. We are working a lot in trying to, let's say, to fulfill the glyphosate amount. For example, in Europe it's 2 ppm, and we are trying to explain the farmers to change for a different products that don't have a residue, etc. It is not a change, Alejandro, that we will see, let's say, in the next weeks, for example. But I am completely sure that...
I hope not.
Yeah. I will, no, because if not, we will lose the crop. But I am completely sure that we will see this in the next crops. We will see the fact that we are working much better and we are not using any product that leaves residue on the final product.
I see. Last but not least, I don't know if you can give us some indication of new crop prices of dry beans?
Yes, well, I will give you a range. What it is very important to consider, Alejandro, is that during the last weeks, where Argentina experienced, let's say, a constant demand in the lot of beans, obviously, especially maybe in the cranberries, or for example, just to give you an example. But in Argentina, the white beans and the color beans practically were not harvested, just a few lots, and with very few indication of a tendency. And farmers now are waiting to see how it is going to be the caliber distribution, not only the yield and the quality, but also the caliber distribution. Remember that last year, Argentina pre-sold, let's say, I don't know, 25% of the crop of caliber 185, 190, for example, that it is our, let's say, average size in a normal crop year with a normal development of the plant. And when we put the machines into our fields, we start harvesting calibers to 10, to 20s, to 30s, to 40s, and even smaller. So this is a reason why the last weeks, in my opinion, the trading was a little bit slow. Not slow because of the demand, slow on the supplier side. That is very important when I will give you now an indication of a price. Well, for example, if we need to talk for alluvias, in my opinion, the alluvias, the Argentine alluvias will become the marketing in a floor of $1,150 cost and freight. That will be the floor, in my opinion. I am talking of a caliber, I don't know, approximately 200, but we need to know the caliber distribution, and it is very important to take this into consideration, because if we have, let's say, 70% of our crop with small calibers and 30 with higher calibers, we will see a biggest distribution between the calibers. So maybe the floor can be a little bit, let's say, high of the price I just gave you. Regarding the color beans, well, the color beans, we are seeing very good demand. We are seeing the cranberries at a floor of $1,420, and I heard of businesses done even at higher prices, much higher prices. In the case of the dark, we are talking of around between $1,270 and $1,320. But all these beans depends on the caliber. That's why I make a lot I make an issue on this. The caliber will be very important to know the marketing of the beans.
Right.
In the case of the black beans, well, I told you last week, we are seeing prices in the frontier with Brazil between $800 and $830. And we are seeing a very different market going to other destinations. For example, the quotes to Mexico last week were around $1,050, $1,075. And in the case of these prices are always under the basis of cost and freight. And this is very important because in the last week in the GPC logistic panel, we talked a lot about the logistics problems and the prices of the freights going around during these days. I am thinking that the market price may be higher because there is no doubt that the prices of the freights are increasing. They are increasing every day, and well, that's making a lot of noise in the world. But I see. If you ask me in general, the beans, I think that they are having, let's say, I don't know if good demand, but at least very, very much interest during the last weeks. It's like suddenly the market woke up.
Right. Do you think like the proportion of pre-contracted businesses is increasing with the years?
No, because Argentina, if you ask me, is a conservative country, and our traders and our companies, our exporters are, let's say, if you ask me, it's a personal opinion, in the conservative side. Argentina has an excellent reputation in fulfilling the contracts. Excellent. We have a lot of problems in our country, in our politics and our economy, but regarding to the exporters and in this particular business of the policies, we have an excellent behavior in the way that we fulfill the contract. We always fulfill, and we fulfill it because it is not only because we work very well, I think, it is also because we do the things in the way that we do the things in the correct way. We are conservative in the way we sell, and we never sell something that it is possible that in the future you cannot fulfill the obligation.
I see. I know you're very busy. Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to add any comments.
No, just to thank to you, Alejandro. Thanks the U.S. Drive-in Council for letting me be part of the interview. And well, whatever you need to ask me, feel free, please.
No, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. Have a good afternoon.